All right, we are here for my versus video deck tech. I am Brian Braun-Duin, and I am, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your personal preference, joined by Bradley Nelson.
How is that a personal preference? Oh, fortunate or unfortunate?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I made you a star, kid.
Did you?
Like, yeah, do not bite the hand that feeds.
I was made a human 28 years ago. I was never a star.
Who do you think impregnated his mom?
Oh, wow. My mind has just been blown. Aren't you the same age as me?
I think I'm younger.
Ooh. All right, well, that's awkward. Time travel is a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
So we are here with some sweet old elves. I see a lot of green cards, and one blue card.
It's also green.
It's also green. A lot of green cards. So let's talk about some of these sweet old green cards. All right, so the elf deck is kind of a combo aggro deck, sort of. Well, it's not an aggressive deck. It's just a combo deck that can value your opponent out, I guess.
Well, it's one of those. It's aggressive in the same sense of the way that other decks are going to interact with our combo. Let us go aggressive.
Yeah.
Because we don't, they're going to, dilute their deck to be able to interact with us because our deck is more explosive than theirs, potentially. So by doing that, we just get to nug them for small amounts of damage. They're not going to have that aggressive of a start because if they play all their proactive stuff, then our combo kills them.
Yep.
So they want to disrupt us constantly, but because our deck doesn't have that many lands, even some of our creatures, or our lands are creatures, we just have more spells, even though they're weaker, that just get to attack for 2 or 3 over the course of a game until they're too low to, not be the aggressor.
Right. Yeah, and also you have a lot of ways to grind your opponent out too. But I'm gonna start by talking about some of the combos in the deck. So the first thing is Glimpse of Nature, plus a lot of cheap creatures.
And the way that happens is, your Birch Lore, your one Birch Lore, and your Heritage Druids are able to just power out a ton of mana consistently.
Yeah. So you have a Heritage Druid in play, and you play like a Nettle Sentinel.
Draw a card.
Play a Birch Lore Ranger, draw a card. Tap those 3 for mana. Play another green card. Untap your Nettle Sentinel, draw a card. Now you have 2 elves untapped.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can play another one, draw another card, tap 3 again, and you just chain through your deck that way.
And every time you draw a Wirewood Symbiote, as long as you have another green mana, you're able to get one returned and get an extra mana. And
then Quirion Ranger can also generate extra mana as well in the mix. So there's a lot of ways to produce mana. Also, untapping Deathrite Shaman can sometimes generate a lot of mana too.
All right, I don't want to rush you. But what do you do with all these little green creatures in play?
What do I do with them?
Yeah, what do you do? What do you do later on in the game that is good with green creatures?
So that's where we green some Zenith for Edric, Spymaster of Crest.
Oh, and draw a lot of cards.
And draw a lot more cards.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Yeah, almost as much sense as the number of cards that will be in our hand prior to our discard step. No, so we get Craterhoof Behemoth, and we just kill them.
Yes.
We hoof them.
Yes, that is great. A little fact about Craterhoof: it is the one card that I've owned the most of any in my entire life. I mean, I don't own them anymore, but it was the card that when it came out, I was like, this card is going to be insane. So I just constantly picked them up over the course of a while, and so I owned so many of these. And when I actually fell in love with it, and I was playing it like in the Hoof There It Is.
Yeah.
Like I would sometimes be playing Hoof There It Is on Moto, and just like riffle, like shuffling like this, like doing this with like 80 of them.
Yeah. That's all right, so we're crater hoofing Brad every game. I think we've discovered that.
I'm fine with that. You will never see a more smiling Brad than when he gets 5-0'd by Craterhoof Behemoth.
All right, well, let's hope that happens.
That's like we all win.
Yeah. Speaking of ways to get Craterhoof Behemoth, we also have Natural Order, which is probably the most combo-centric card of this deck.
Yes.
So the way that works is you sacrifice a green creature, and you search your library for a green creature, put it into play, then you trigger Craterhoof Behemoth. I think that's also part of the card.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you kill your opponent.
At least game 1.
Right. So
if we're naturally for anything else, something has went horribly wrong.
Right. So
or we're just going to draw like 6.
Yeah. So most of the time we're going to get Craterhoof and kill them.
Actually, there's no reason we draw 6. We can just kill them.
Right. But occasionally things go haywire and you have to get like a Wirewood Symbiote or an Elvish Visionary to start drawing some cards. And that's another combo as well.
I can think of a reason why we're going to natural order for...
Ensnaring Bridge.
Da-da, da-da.
Ensnaring Bridge, well, that's where Reclamation Sage comes into play. Destroys Ensnaring Bridge.
You actually did throw that.
I did throw that. I destroyed it, actually. That card is unplayable. And Brad's going to have to get a new deck. So Reclamation Sage is a new card from M15 that fits perfectly into the Elf deck because it destroys artifacts and enchantments.
Both at the same time. He can kill both. It's choose one or both.
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't, but you can just do that. That's fine.
Yeah, if your opponent's not paying attention. I'm just kidding. Don't ever actually do that.
No.
Previously, this deck played Viridian Shaman in the main, and now we can just straight upgrade that card.
Yeah.
Some may say that a 2/2 is better than a 2/1, but it's irrelevant. So.
Because the rest of your deck is all 1/1s.
Yep. And then another powerful card is Green Sun Zenith, and we can actually Zenith for Craterhoof Behemoth thanks to a little card I like to call Gaia's Cradle. So when we have a lot of little cheap elves in play, Gaia's Cradle taps for a lot of mana.
One of the small things that's great about this deck too is that Green Sun Zenith along with Dread Arbor can just be a non-elf Llanowar elf on turn 1.
Right.
Just when you want to get more mana into play. Also, that's a huge one where the cool thing about this deck is it can, after sideboard against removal heavy decks, it can natural order for Progenitus out of nowhere by just having 4 lands in play because you can sacrifice one of them to go get Dryad, untap, and then tap the 4 lands and sacrifice the Dryad Arbor.
To get Progenitus.
To get Progenitus. A huge, like, backdoor way to try to win a game when an opponent has an overwhelming board position.
Yeah, that is a true statement. And Dryad Arbor is actually insane in this deck because 1, it's a land that taps for mana. 2, you can do things like block a creature with Umezawa's Jit and then bounce your forest with Quirion Ranger to prevent damage. And then it also provides an extra mana from Gaia's Cradle while also being a land that produces mana itself.
Taps for 2. It's like an elf.
It is. So Dryad Arbor is a pretty insane way, and you can fetch for it too, which is pretty big. And as I found playing Miracles, it's really that card's really annoying because when you terminus them, they can just fetch it back out again. So I actually just usually plow those just to get them out completely, so I don't have to deal with it. And then, I don't know, past that point, we can just Deathrite Shaman people. We can also do things like Elvish Visionary plus Wirewood Symbiote.
Just continuously
just to draw a bunch of cards. So
if the opponent's not a combo-based deck, they're going to have to break through your elves eventually. So in the early turns when you aren't able to combo off, but you're able to do the mini combos in the deck, all these just random mini combos to just generate card advantage, and the opponent is going to have to disrupt that. They can't play draw go with elves.
Right.
So all the unfair decks, you have to be a combo deck. Against all the fair decks, you just get to be a unique fair deck, and that's the cool thing that I like about elves.
Yeah, and another thing too, and this is a deck that maybe Brad can get behind. I don't know, but you are a fair deck that also has just unfair cards that can just instantly win you the game. So like you're playing this fair game against your opponent, and you're kind of grinding them out, and you draw a natural order and you just kill them.
I agree with that. The only thing that I dislike about decks is I can't ever get behind decks with, 1/1s for 1.
Really?
Yeah. I can never
play. You've never played Absence Pilgrim before?
Or Doom Traveler or Llanowar Elf or what was that?
Goblin Welder. Have you ever played Goblin Welder before?
I've never played Goblin Welder, actually. I have not. I've never played with Goblin Welder before.
And you never will.
Until you look down. Actually, no, we gotta get to sideboard.
Sideboard first.
Let's just wrap this up.
All right, sideboard. All right, so we're back with the sideboard, and converted mana cost 3 or less, artifacts and enchantments, artifacts, killing people, killing storm decks, killing their hand, show and tell, fair decks, activated abilities.
But what if I counter it?
You can't counter it. It cannot be countered, Brad.
Well, that's all I need to know.
And that's all you need to know as well. This is the Elf sideboard, and let's get down to the games.